When I chose this book, one of my friends was like, "Oh, don't read that," but another one was like, "Oh no, read that. It's a really good book."
Yeah.
So it's like Marmite. This book is like Marmite, and I think with you guys, you're like, "Oh yeah, this is quite good." And for me, it's like I hate Marmite. Like it was.
I think black women would enjoy this book.
Pardon?
I think black women would enjoy.
Why is that,
book.
Zach?
Whoa.
So here we go.
This is Zachary.
Why is that? No,
disclaimer.
I just think it. Yeah, you know what? That's all I got for that. So.
Cool. All right. Ready? All right. So, welcome everyone. This is It's Not a Book Club podcast. This is season 2 of the now very popular podcast that we started up. I'm here. Well, my name is Ruben, and I'm here with the usual lot, Kende and Zach, and we've just read Luster by Raven Leilani, and it essentially centers around a black woman in her 20s.
It's Raven Leilani.
I was
Raven
just thinking
Leilani.
that.
I can't lie.
You butchered the name.
I can't.
What
we
was
can't.
it?
All this.
What did I say?
Raven Leilani.
Raven, shit,
Leilani.
right. Raven Leilani, and it
Yeah.
centers around basically a 20-year-old black woman, and she is navigating her life. Basically, the book dips into her experience as a black woman, her promiscuity in New York City or New Jersey State, and it revolves around her relationship with a married man called Eric and his partner Rebecca and their adopted daughter Akila, and it just follows her experience. And I think that's a decent enough synopsis, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Is anyone else anything to add
Before
to
we
that?
jump into the book, I think we should always season 2. Yeah.
What?
Say spoiler alert, because I think people need to know that they're getting into this. We're going to be talking about everything.
What about in the book?
In the book, we're going to.
Oh yeah, of course.
We're going to be open to talking about everything. We're not going to hold back, and so we should explore every option. So, but yeah, what you were saying? Would you say again?
Oh no, I'm just saying. So how did you find the book? I might as well just start, innit?
Yeah, man. I don't know. You know what? Yeah, when I read the book, when I was halfway through the book, it reminded me a lot of Blade Runner. Not Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Do androids dream of electric
Wait,
sheep?
this book.
Hold on.
Okay.
In terms of how the pace of the story was actually kept me involved in the book. Okay. I felt like this book is at the beginning. It kind of goes straight into it in terms of it's a first person kind of evaluation of the world. Like it's her perception, and the dialogue in it is there, but it's very little. So a lot of the dialogue you have is he said, she said, right? Oh, this happened. And I feel like the book got a bit slow towards the middle, especially when she had the kind of those flashbacks with family, because I think those flashbacks she had about her relationship with her dad, relationship with her mum, that those were always propping up during moments of vulnerability, or like she was tackling some sort of issue with Rebecca.
Interesting.
With a co-worker, even her black co-worker and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And I think those kind of kickbacks will just make you kind of understand the character a bit more, But overall, it was a weird book for me. Like, I was reading it thinking, what am I reading? And I was even like, I hope the ending's good. Do you know what I mean? Like, something mad better happen. But I think it got to a point where I was actually pretty pleased with it. I like the book, if I'm honest. I was surprised. I was like, damn, Ruben chose his book. Because
you liked it?
You got it right, so I can't lie. You got it right.
So what do you think, Zach?
I think I honestly didn't love it. I felt like it dealt with some interesting themes and topics, and it was very it was fun to read something that was so blunt about a lot of things that are usually not talked about in books, like sex. It was very explicit, you know what I'm saying? So I enjoyed that, but I just felt like those passages that didn't really give me much in terms of the pace of the book. It felt like it just lagged a bit in the middle, and then kind of was tied together in this nice but a bit hasty ending to kind of tie in her art and tie in all these things.
I see what you mean.
Which I thought was cool, but yeah, for me, I was a bit more critical of it. I enjoyed it, but I'm a bit critical still.
What about the language though?
I think
The quality of the book. What do you think of the quality of the book?
Terrible.
I think okay, here we go.
I'm not gonna lie. This is
I feel it was
hot
terrible.
take, but I think this was the worst book we've read on this podcast.
Wow.
Honestly,
On what premise?
it's
The worst book.
the worst book. And I say that with
Nah.
by flying fucking colours.
No way.
By flying colours.
No way.
No, if you really deep it, right? Away from it, how it's written, it reads like it's her first novel she's written.
Okay,
Right.
it is.
No, but it reads like that. there's people who can like. I don't have. Is it like? Did she like study English or something? Because essentially, it feels like if
You can find out.
I think she did.
no, we could.
I think
was
she
at-
was
I think she was at NYU.
Yeah,
She's at NYU.
Yeah.
Shit, boy.
But I don't
I'm just-
think she was in English though.
So I want to say, essentially, why I think it's the worst book that we've written. We've read is that
What about Biff and Chip?
doesn't count, bruv. That's a lost podcast. But
We need to let that go sometime.
yeah, we actually
Season
need to let that go.
I can't lie, that was Ruben's idea. Just
My
put it out there.
idea. What you're the
Next,
one who
I'm
said
joking.
to record to the church, isn't it? But
It's actually fake.
but
You're fake. bro.
but no. What I was gonna say, essentially, why I think this is the worst book we've actually read is that because it's how it's written. It's written in the third person, but it's just it just goes into random tangents. Like she doesn't. It's not. It's structured really poorly. Really poorly. It touches on very emotional topic areas, right? But it seems like an extension of a blog post, or one of those like fan fictions or things that you read in like a Tumblr.
Yeah.
And it's just been like composed and like rewritten into
That's
this.
what I was saying, where it
into a
feels
book.
like it just kind of rambles on at points.
But no, because I've actually where did I there's like
passionate.
a page where it just basically encapsulate what I'm talking about in the sense that well, on 115, right? So literally go to 115. I'm just gonna read it.
Go on.
Wait, and it just doesn't make any. So she says, so there's a lot of exposition throughout this whole book, but then she says above the receptionist desk there's an engraving that says the clown stands on its head and sees the world the right way up. The receptionist is impossibly chic Asian woman with long like what does that actually add to the story?
that's just description, though.
But there's unnecessary description throughout this whole book. That you can
Alright.
chip off a third of all that like just, it doesn't add to any the
I
story.
agree. I agree because I did feel like reading it, like even just the spacing of the book, it felt just like, okay, here's a solid page of text, bare description, and it was sometimes she would jump. I feel like she would jump between ideas and like places a lot, so it was very disorientating at times to find who, like, especially how she used speech. It was hard sometimes to tell who was speaking when.
Fair enough.
And like what part of the story they were like inputting in. So I don't know. I hear you on that. To be fair, I do hear you on that.
I don't know. I think your analysis is a bit unfair. I agree with the fact that it's written almost as if it's a first novel. You can see where some of the inspirations come from. Like one of the YouTube things, she said she loved like Toni Morrison, obviously. Like who doesn't? But like in terms of the story arc, in terms of like a black 23-year-old, you know, trying to make it, like taking multiple jobs, being quite promiscuous at work, getting in trouble because of that, getting fired but not really caring, and then ending up in someone else's home. But in my opinion, right, I feel like as a first novel, it's exciting because she shows this kind of level of when you read some of the stuff, there's a bit of rhythm to it. So it's like there's a clear history of her knowing her poetry or something, right? And there's one part which I thought was interesting. See the part when she went to the house. She went to Eric's. Is Eric? What's his name?
Yeah.
Eric.
Eric. Yes, went to the house, right? And this is time when they've already had sex, and she went back to the house, and he wasn't there. And then she started to go through her stuff, the girl's thing. So she goes, and so this whole paragraph literally has one comma.
Okay.
And it's because she wanted to make it like you want to read it fast.
She did it on purpose.
Come
You know
on,
what?
man. You gotta think. Come on.
All right, go on.
Maybe she did because it's written in first person.
No,
the whole idea is to kind of like get into the mind of Edie, innit? So it's like her thoughts might ramble.
That's what I'm saying.
In the same way that our thoughts might ramble if we're just thinking whatever. And I think that's why she did that. But I find it hard to read. Like, my criticism is not that she did it, but it's more that I just find it difficult to decipher that kind of technique.
Fair enough. But the thing is, with Derek Arosi's book, remember, it's kind of similar. There's that reminds me. Derek Arosi's book, it's crafted in a way that makes you want to. You have to read it a very specific way, or it's not going to work. Or
I disagree. I think it's much. Okay, his book's a very good comparison because in sense of
his was very
in terms of the career, in terms of how it's written, and in terms of the topic area. His book, if I'm not mistaken, is written in first person. If I'm not trying shit. I think it's talking about the character, but scrap that. So it's not.
Okay.
But in a sense, it's how it's structured. It's structured around memories and experiences of that character, right?
Yeah, but okay.
And I think what Derek gets right is that it flows. It's a natural. It's consistent. It's not jagged, as you said.
Fair enough.
It's not disjointed. When you have, which I can understand, where you can make there's a strong argument to say, well, that's not representative of someone's internal monologue, right? But
so wait, hold on a second.
For a book, you can't write like that, bro.
So are you trying to tell a woman how to write?
I'm not. You know what? If he wants to take it,
answer the question. Answer the question.
I don't know how you got that from what I was talking about.
I'm joking. I get you.
But I'm just saying.
I hear you because it's like. But at the same time, I did think to myself like, I guess it's kind of like a bit autobiographical, where she's like writing from her own point of view, and she's trying to get you into the mind. We're obviously three guys trying to get into the mind of a 23-year-old, her basically, and like.
Maybe I don't get
maybe you just don't get it. Yeah,
maybe I just don't get it.
Maybe you just don't get it.
But maybe I think it's just that.
I feel like I've realized with this whole book club thing, right?
Yeah.
Certain books, like for example, Tina Fey's book.
Yeah, Boys and Pants.
And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember that book, for example, if I'm honest, I read quite quickly, and I didn't enjoy it as much. So I think what I realized is that certain books need a certain pace. They need to be read a certain way. Otherwise, you're gonna miss a lot of stuff. You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna like it. And I understand what you're saying about this book, right? So I'll read the chapter in this bit in a second, right? This bit only really happens once. So that's why the idea of Derek Rose's book being consistent, I totally understand. I agree, and therefore the language is consistent, and his techniques and rules that he's made for himself, it works because he's done. Do you know what I mean? It's consistent. Whilst she hasn't got that, it's not consistent.
Fair enough.
So I can understand why you say I don't like it, because it's like you can't just do that. So, anyways, it goes. And now I know where he lives. So 10 days after having fucked him in the bed she shares with his wife, I go right up to the door and find it unlocked, and no one is home. So I walk around the house and pick up these cold lemons on the counter and roll them around in my hand. And I open the fridge and take a drink of milk, carry the carton up to the bedroom where a door opens to a closet with a collection of women's clothes. And I gather the silken wool, cashmere in my hands, and then there's a voice. And I turn around standing in the doorway of the attached bathroom in yellow rubber gloves and a t-shirt that says Yale is his wife. And I just feel like there's literally only 2 commas, but when you're reading at home, you're just like, in your head, it's like...
It's fast.
It's fast. It's like, she's... Because literally up to that point, she's in the house by herself. And you're thinking, fuck, like, she shouldn't be there. But I think we should let's get to the story, because I think the story is one which is interesting, because if someone said, oh yeah, it's about some, husband who's sleeping with a younger woman, you think, okay, it's kind of a fair situation. But in fact, it's a polygamy. It's like, it's allowed, like it's being spoken about.
It's an interesting dynamic.
It is.
I think, don't get me wrong, I think the topic area is very interesting. And I think essentially, one thing I did want to speak about is that there's an argument to say that the book is centered around Akia, which is the adopted daughter of the relationship the adopted daughter of Eric and Rebecca, just a white couple that have a black daughter who's 13.
Adopted.
adopted black daughter.
Make
Right?
the case. Why
But
do you
yeah,
think that?
so essentially, why I think that is that she is a secondary character, but from almost like halfway through, she's actually the central point of a lot of Eddie's decision making, in relation to the
Edie, I think.
Edie, sorry, Edie's decision making, and in relation to the constant narrative of the black experience of something. I think that's what the book gets well to, in that it showcases what your mind is like as a black person, where all of these just almost these experiences of just racism, casual experience of racism in everyday life, all the things that you secondarily have to think about as a black person, which I think it does.
But it doesn't feel
does get
political.
well. Pardon?
True.
But it doesn't feel political.
100%.
That's what I would...
Maybe.
I mean... Okay,
but why I would say that the book is... There's argument to say it is about Akila, is that there's a clear beginning, middle, and end with that story. Beginning, and how it touches upon her... Akia being a bit confused about her race, what it means to be black. She's adopted. She wears wigs, which she doesn't have to care for her hair. Edie, that's a main bit of the book in which she talks about but it elaborates on the book elaborates on about how to care for black hair and using shea butter and just washing and massaging the scalp, and then it goes into Akia's experiences of just being feeling abandoned sometimes, and then there's a strong central point in the book of just this character just be shaping a lot of decisions of Eric, Rebecca, and Edie.
Well, less so Rebecca. What's his name? The husband.
Eric. But it touches upon that when he's like, for instance, near the end of the book, which is the big spoiler, where there's that police experience where they both get like mistaken as not mistaken, but just the everyday systemic racism within the police force in America, in which essentially they're trying to get into their own house, and Rebecca and Eric aren't there, and because they live in a white suburby area, the 13-year-old hadn't necessarily experienced that yet, so she was, it's my house, and she just tries to get into the house, and then she gets tackled by the police and in a chokehold, and it's a very traumatic experience.
What was the reason why they did that? Because it was a dog's neighbor.
Yeah, an white woman's dog's neighbor got killed or shot, and then automatically the only black faces were in a neighborhood were seen as the potential suspects, which is just as is, in it.
It's obscene.
Just to touch back on the point you made about Akia. So why do you lot think that it was so important for Edie to spark up a relationship with Akia? Like, do you think that she maybe saw parts of herself in her, or do you feel like she needed to like
that's interesting
intervene to like help someone out who was essentially lost in a family that didn't really know how to like look after her?
It was interesting. I don't agree that the book is about Akia. I don't.
Fair enough.
I think it's a bit broader than that. I think it's even bigger than Edie. I think it's about many things, but I think one strong point is, you could say, the women dynamic, especially with all three of those characters, Rebecca, Edie, and Akila. Like, Rebecca and Edie had a very complicated relationship, and it was very stiff and very blunt at the beginning, although it did loosen up towards the end, I would say. But Akila was in a position where she's a child, right? So everything that happens to her is not of her own decision making. And I feel like when she first met Edie at the party, remember when she was at the party and like all the friends around, it's like, who are you? How do you know the couple?
This was her party.
No, this is the husband's party. Right. What's his name?
Eric.
Eric's party. And it was the anniversary even. And then all the friends came around and like, there were people saying to Edie, who are you? And then when they clock each other, like Edie clocks Makia from the stairs or something, and she's wearing a wig. And then they notice, like black things, you notice each other, and they just act normal afterwards. And I think from that moment, they knew they had to speak. And then from when Rebecca was like, okay, you guys, basically you're here to help. And when what really shook me in the book was when the tutor was saying to Keela, a monkey could do this. Do you know what I mean? And then Edie was like, what the hell? Like, she brought up to Rebecca. Rebecca was kind of
but oblivious.
Offended also.
She was
that,
offended.
Offended that
Rebecca was offended.
She
Rebecca
would
was
even
offended.
bring up the idea
She's
that
like,
she was racist.
you didn't say racism in my house or this happened. There's racist actor in my house.
No, but
house.
come on. From Rebecca's perspective, this is who's this girl?
Yeah.
No,
My
no,
husband's
no,
girlfriend comes in and says all this
I'm
shit.
sorry, I'm sorry. No,
okay.
because
Bro.
no, that was a classic like white liberal thing where she was more offended because even in the thing she actually mentions this idea that she didn't want to bring up the R word. She uses R word.
Oh,
She even used
that's true.
lowercase
that's
r
because
true.
word.
it's almost as offensive as the act itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's like a weird parallel where bringing up the fact that you've experienced racism is being treated in the same like people. You should consider people's offense to being called racist more above the actual act of
as if being
a victim of racism.
hurts more than that.
And I felt like that
itself,
was just mad. Like, but it's interesting because I'm really hearing you say about Akila's relationship with Edie. You know, like I can definitely see what you're saying about it being the centerpiece because I would say arguably that Akila's probably the person that links all of the characters together in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like you can almost see her as like
fair enough.
as like a sort of almost the center of the family in a weird sort of way. Like,
right, if she isn't there, I think it all breaks down. I think I think Edie isn't taken inside because essentially she lives with them for an extended period of time. She moves into basically the relationship starts off as like an affair, and then it's revealed that it's an open relationship, and then she moves.
He said from the get go, to be honest, because they went on a date, and he said it on the date.
Oh, it's open.
He said I'm we kind of go on a date, but I'm married. Like it's an open relationship, and he didn't even do anything with her, kiss her, nothing until quite late on. Fair.
Fair.
I think he's in his 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
So he's quite
50s.
old fashioned. He's quite old fashioned in terms of he's not gonna lips on the first date. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she wanted it now.
So fair enough. So essentially, like they're in an open relationship. She lives in the house, with the couple, and then obviously
She ends up there.
Yeah, she ends up there.
It's
but
crazy.
I can't remember what we were speaking about. The point I kind of forgot.
Akila being the central.
Yeah. So essentially, like she wouldn't have been invited to live with them if Akila wasn't there. Not there's a good shot because essentially Rebecca saw the advantages of having another black woman in Akila's life because she realized like
she wasn't doing well. She didn't
understand the nuances of being a teenager or a black girl, teenage black girl in America, and she saw that Akila was struggling with identity issues, and she thought, my husband's doing this thing with this girl. I don't really fuck with it, but there's advantage in that. And Eric's a bit of a question mark.
He's quite apathetic.
So I don't know. Yeah, it's just a bit.
It's interesting with him because
I don't know.
I feel like Raven writes him as a character who's not like when it starts. You think he's going to be this like older, mysterious, sexual kind of brooding guy. He's not. He essentially
says sorry when he tries to choke you.
Yeah. You want this? I'm sorry. Bro, I'm sorry. He's mad. So
he is mad.
I feel like Raven uses him as a vehicle to get
them together.
Thingy in the house, and then after that, just kind of like bins him off and says, "All right, cool. Let's explore."
It's crazy because when I was reading that, I was thinking they've done this before. Like this sounds like some Bonnie and Clyde setup thing where they get turned on by another. Because how can you adopt a black girl? Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, it's mad.
And then you go out date another black girl that's actually of age, and then you start having sex with her.
It's mad. Yeah.
Then you don't talk to her anymore and treat her like she's just some object in the house.
Yeah.
That he literally has sex with her, I think once or twice, and he goes on his like little work holiday thing, and then he just leaves Rebecca to kind of pick up the pieces. And I feel like the thing I like about this book is that it's nothing shouts out at you, right? Like it's not overly political, it's not overly feminist, it's not overly like millennial, whatever you want to call it. No, I'm not saying. It's saying it's well balanced. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And because of that, it's hard to find. So for what I found interesting when I found out that Rebecca, for example, she cares for the dead essentially. Like she is
a post-mortem.
She is damage control in a way, and the same way she does at work, is what she does at home. Like she's the one that's like I feel like I agree with you in terms of her seeing a killer, like socially not doing well. You know, like she's not maintaining herself, even though she's got everything I guess what she needs. But I don't think Rebecca knows what to do. Like she genuinely has no clue. Like she doesn't think it's racist. She doesn't think she's just like, oh, you're a little girl, like go and have fun. But like she doesn't realize like she's actually a black girl who lives in the suburbs. She has no friends.
On that point, and there's two things you said there that are interesting. The one, first of all, the whole thing with her dissecting bodies, there was something I felt very uneasy about when she was, especially being a black body, and her showing Edie dissecting a black body. It was almost like some Get Out stuff where it was like, this is, I don't know, I took that as quite symbolic for what they're trying to do with her, in a sense of like getting inside of her. It was almost like she was their patient, almost. Not patient, but like a case study for them, where she was just like there to be observed, and like, it's hard to explain, but I feel like she wasn't really ever appreciated as a person in the house. It was more like an object of the man's desire, and then the woman was using her as almost like a nanny thing, which harkens back to that image of the American, black woman who's feeding the white baby from her breast,
picture, like a nursing,
and that's been a thing from forever in America, and like where they take
nursing nannies,
where they take the slaves and get them to raise.
Get a picture. I want to see the picture if you can.
And get them to raise the.
Got a new screen.
Get them to raise the white kids and that, and I think it harkened back to that a little bit.
It's a nursing nanny.
It harkened back to that as well.
Slave.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think that it's weird because, like you said, like Eric's position,
nursing nanny and then slave.
Eric's position kind of vanished very quickly, and he quite realized quite quickly like the guy's just a drunk, fool he's just 50 years old and has everything because he's older. Essentially, like he's worked his way up.
This is what I was talking about. This one,
and it's weird because from Rebecca and Eric, you don't actually get to see them enjoy things or like hate things. Well, I think not hate things. I'd say. I mean, you quite see them the way they treat people or treat Edie is like. There's almost like no emotion. It's almost weird. Like the book makes you feel like they have no emotion.
Yeah, it's very cold.
It's almost like anxiety inducing.
Yeah, so you feel like, they must be enjoying the fact that she's cutting up this person, cutting up this black person in front of Edie, or they must be enjoying, she's doing yoga while there's literally two black girls, they have no blood relationship in the house. Like, there must be something turning them on, but there's literally, you get no sense of that. So it makes you think, like, what's going on here? Because I hear what you're saying about Akila, but I feel like they're not two people who really cared about Akila, really.
Which begs the question why they even adopted
That's
it.
what I'm saying. So that's what makes me feel like, I don't know. That's
what I'm saying. So I got the vibe that there was
like
something darker, some kind of
some
dark,
voyeuristic
kind of vibe. Yeah,
interesting.
Weird, like
because it's too.
They had sex with the door open with the people in the house.
Yeah,
do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but that was kind of discreet.
The door was open.
Do you know it would make a good book, a movie?
Yeah,
I think as a story,
as a book,
no, as a book, not so much, but as a movie, I could see it would be a very good movie. I could. Do you know what? It would make a very good movie.
But who would be the protagonist then?
Because it's
Edie, surely.
I know, but let's phrase it this way. So if Akila was the protagonist, would it be more fun? As in, you saw her childhood a little bit, and then she just
because she's young. Because half of what would make this a sick film would be the sex and the fact that.
Okay.
No, it's true.
Fair enough.
Think about it.
Oh yeah.
If we got the backstory
like
of
50 Shades
Edie,
of
like
Greyish.
when she was talking about all these like men that she'd been with, all her like past lovers in the
IT
work,
and,
IT.
Yeah,
that's entertaining
mad.
shit. Like,
Yeah.
so I think.
And Mark, there's a whole bit about Mark about it was almost like it's the first Eric, isn't it?
Yeah, so what did you think about that? Because I know that you want to speak about art and stuff, and it's like he was a kind of like entry, like he was like almost like her sensei in a sense for her art, and she like looked to him as validation.
Yeah,
and he never ever gave her validation, but she always looked to him as someone that she wanted to feel as though he rated her work because she rated his work.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because I feel like maybe her relationship with other men was based off that first encounter she's had with a man. And I mean, sexually and obviously intimately, and because of that, she is always in a dynamic where she's always fighting for someone's approval.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Like with Eric, she was fighting for his approval, and in many ways, like because she wanted to have sex straight away, he was like, "No, you're going too far, so you're being inappropriate."
I might start doing that.
Like even when she did something wrong, he was like, "I want to hit you," and she says, "Go on, like that's fine."
Yeah.
So she's very quick to be submissive, and but the book in a way taught her to kind of be like, okay, like put your big girl panties and get shit done. Like, and I feel like Rebecca in a way wanted to kind of teach her that as well, but like not by telling her, but by just being a prick to her. Do you know what I mean? Or being very passive aggressive, because like I said, like towards the end, right? The ending was good in my opinion, because I feel like it could have been better. Like it could have been, I don't know, maybe I want an explosion or someone to die or something. But the thing is, it was good in the sense of the vulnerability that she had. She got rid of it. Like the lack of confidence, she got rid of it. Like when Rebecca was like, "Okay, your shit's upstairs. I'm going now." She's like, "Don't go anywhere."
Do you want to do a bit of explanation for what happens in the end?
All right. So basically, at the end. Well,
it's a bit mad.
Yeah, it is a bit mad. She gets pregnant actually, and then she has a miscarriage, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, but Eric doesn't know. Rebecca knows, and like I said, Rebecca's damage control. Like she's lived her whole life, even though her job to fix things and to bury the dead and keep secrets in a way. So when it all happens, she basically Edie gets a new job. So she's like, I'm leaving. Like she's left the house now. And Rebecca's like, okay, I'll help you in your new apartment. She goes to a new place, I think in Bush something or Hell's Kitchen, I don't know, somewhere in New York, Bushwood.
Bushwick, yeah.
And she's a painter now, and she's been trying to paint for months, weeks now.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been successful because she's been very shy. She's been sticking to painting objects, still lives. And that's like, you have to move on to what you want to do, which is people. So anyways, now when she's in an apartment, gets everything upstairs, there's rats all over her feet, and her flatmate isn't in yet. Rebecca's like, okay, I've dropped your stuff off. Like, this is where we part ways. Like, she's already said bye to Tequila already. And then Rebecca's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go now. And then as soon as she turns around, for the first time, you actually get some sense of ownership, accountability, and confidence from Edie, and says, don't go anywhere. And she says, okay, like, she paints her essentially. But the thing is, the way she describes Rebecca undressing is like, Rebecca's a woman who, she deals with the dead. So body dysmorphia does not bother her. So she doesn't care about the creases and doesn't care about all that kind of stuff. And it's projected onto Edie. And therefore she paints well.
Would you say that she, because one thing I was a bit confused about is every time Edie had like completed a bit of artwork, and she, as you said, just this constant theme of her seeking validation from her partners, but also from Rebecca at times when she was like had a painting out and wanted her to just see her art and just to hear some kind of response of like some form of improvement, right? Like, oh, just seeking that out. But what I thought was kind of mad was that at the end she sees the painting and then Rebecca's response is like, oh well, okay.
Yeah.
And I thought it would, I don't know, maybe it was like unreasonable to almost like expect that, but I thought there would be some form of like final validation, like, oh, this is beautiful. I thought we were gonna get that
it from herself though, because
how? Because
right
essentially
at the
Rebecca
end,
just reiterates what she's always thought. Like,
no, but right at the end, I think she finally finds it within herself that like her work is good enough and that she is a valid artist. I think like the whole book, she's like chasing the idea of being an artist, not really doing it, but kind of doing it. It's always a side thing that she doesn't really mention to people, whatever. But I think by the end, like you're saying, Kende, about the confidence, like she's like been through this mad experience and all these things, and then she comes out with a kind of acceptance of who she is and what she is, and I think she embraces the artist in her. Do you know what I mean?
And in a way, maybe exactly. I think Zach's right. I think even though the O for her might have been enough for her to be like, okay, this is good, because Rebecca never said O, never said. She's even laughed at her. Do you know what I mean? Even for one of the times she was in the car, and she says, Edie's like, I never want to be pregnant, and she's crying and bleeding. Rebecca's like, yeah, neither did I, because it's just such like a bitch. She's just a bitch in it, basically. So, her saying O was actually, imagine having a professor at uni or tutor, and then they've never said anything positive about your work, but they go, oh, I like that, or oh, that's good, or that's nice.
Oh yeah.
That means
way
millions.
more in it.
Do you know what I'm saying? So in the same way, I think this kind of is kind of repeated. But I think my question was kind of more about, you know, artwork, right? Even like the stuff like photography or like music. Is the best stuff that you've made kind of related to some emotional time?
Oh my god, yeah.
Or is it some like important memory? Or has it just been like just some random time? Because does value actually come in originality or novelty, or is it just because it's how you just package and sell things?
So in terms of my photography, that took me a long time to figure out, because I started photography like amateur photographer, had a bit of a talent for it. I got recruited for like some agency beginning of uni, had no idea how to use a camera, and then took a step back and to try and make myself better into like that professional photographer level of how to make a photo and how to get a photograph that looked like Sebastian Salgado. So if you can get Sebastian Salgado's work up, I don't know what the hell you're searching, bro.
Value of art, man.
What the fuck? But essentially, Sebastio Salgado. Yeah. But essentially, I was just like, how do I get so if you're listening, like if you type in Sebastian, how do I emulate or get
Photographers always like that, by the way. Just saying.
No. But back then when I was 17, 18-year-old, I wasn't really exposed to photos.
Yeah, they always look like journalists. Like I've been to Iraq.
It's a photo. No, but it's a photojournalist. But those photographs are incredibly hard to capture. And I was like trying to figure out, like, bruv, like my photography. How do I get this? I thought it was unachievable. And I thought, okay, maybe it's just him. And then I went to World Press Awards. The first one I was in Barcelona. I think I was with Zach and Shaf actually, and it completely changed. It was like paradigm shifting for me. I was like, wait. This is not just Sebastian Salgado. This is just photojournalism. As in, like, essentially, you want to be this, you have to be doing photographs like this. I saw hundreds of photographers with the same quality and caliber of work as this one photographer that I just put on a pedestal. And it completely destroyed my life. I was like, how do I do this? Like, when I realized, like, emotion. But going back to what you were saying, in the sense of how do you get that originality and authenticity? I documented my past relationship with my ex, and as I was taking these photographs of just moments of my experience with her, my just cataloging the relationship, I realized there was an essence of those photographs that I wasn't getting in my work, and I was like really curious about that. And I realized one thing was emotion. As I was taking photographs of, I was a bit sadistic, so when we had just broken up and I took a photograph as she was getting on the bus, and that's the last time I saw her for a long period of time, and I called out her name. I said, look back, and I took a picture of that moment, and you saw it, and you captured loss, sadness in that moment, even though it was very hard for me. Or when she took a picture of me and I was crying, and it's just that fragility that comes across. You're capturing a moment of emotion and time
because it's authentic,
right? And there's something that you have, like, actors strive to get that,
of course, yeah.
To try and replicate that emotion in music. When you can relate to when you're sad,
no, of course.
Or and people crave that. Artists is this sadistic, like, unhealthy relationship of emotion, sadness, because sadness is probably the strongest emotion to use as inspiration, but to almost, you want to emulate that in your work.
Yeah,
and that
it's like a hit of a drug, really, because it's like you can, as an actor, as a musician, whatever, like, you can put yourself in a position where you feel these things from a, like, removed point of view. But if you're really going through it and you create while in that space, it's like a golden hour of like content that you can be creating, because it's almost like once that heals, you're always going to be living in the replica version of that, or in, like, less authentic versions of that emotion. So, like, I don't know, people always say after a breakup, record, because it's like, damn, you're just going to be on it.
Are there any songs that you've made?
Of course, bro. There's enough.
Name a song.
There's enough. No.
You don't expose
one song. One
song that's like...
No, because they're not even out yet.
Okay.
But there's some music at the time, for example.
Yeah.
when I was in a certain
happy.
place.
It could be happy emotion.
That's
Like,
what
it works.
say.
It works.
what's the song that you've made that's like happy then? Like that captures a moment in time that which you thought.
There's a lot of songs that I've made that are happy in a sense where, like, if I'm feeling good, genuinely feeling good, and I'm making music and the vibe is right, then yeah, like it will come out.
Fair.
And I think artists sometimes, obviously, we can be too tied to our emotional like
I was gonna say this.
selves, and then it's almost like we end up chasing this emotion. Like I read somewhere one time that Mary J. Blige apparently like she like seeks that heartbreak feeling, hence all the relationships that she's been in order to capture the like most rawest emotion for her songs, which is crazy and very unsustainable.
I think a lot of artists do that.
A lot of people do it,
come to mind.
But it's just one of them ones where it's just very unsustainable to chase the realest version of an emotion, because ultimately it's going to involve people getting hurt in it. So yeah.
What about in architecture? Does that come into the same kind of?
I don't know. I think it's a bit maybe. I think it's a bit different in a way because there's a video I watched with Adam Caruso. He's like an architect. He done like the renovations at the Tate Britain and stuff, and he's quite like. So he was saying about novelty is nonsense, innit? And he was saying it because in a way, as artists or architects, whatever you want to call it, we refer back to, or we should find value in previous people's work, like you're saying. This guy, Sebastian, you liked his work and then you try to take images of it, and then obviously your work will reflect not only your passions and your perspective, your camera, you know, your personality, but it also reflect what you've learned from these angles, if that makes sense. So he was saying, like, you standing there and saying, you know, I took this picture and it's original, it's the first thing ever done, has no value. Yeah, like, it doesn't mean anything. It's the fact that you can draw back on historical figures, you can draw back on these precedents, allows your work to have value, because it's like, because I think architecture is a historical, you know,
medium or something.
It's a historical kind of what do you call it? It's like a paradigm shift where it's continuous, and you're always drawing back on different things. So for you to understand what's going on now, you need to know what happened before, and for things to work or not work, you need to look at everything. So for you to stand there and be like, I'm gonna build this building, and it's just a square, and there's nothing in it, and it's brand new, like it's brand new, so everyone turn up. Instagram will come there and be like, everyone take a picture. But in architectural terms, it's like, this is shit. Like, what's it doing? Or was it not doing? And the thing is, there hasn't got to be an answer, but there has to be something. It has to be doing something. So, in many ways, in different forms, novelty has nothing, but it depends who you're talking to. Because an artist, for example, might, you know, do abstraction and love it, but then for many, abstraction is dead. Do you know what I mean? And it's about, you know, Picasso doing what he was doing for how many years. So it's different. It's different for everybody, I think. Yeah.
And what's interesting as well, I feel like there's a direct link between being an artist, or I hate the word creative. Me and Shaf were talking off the camera about like architect of
what?
Of I don't know what even to call it, but if you're an artist, I feel like those are the most vulnerable people to like wanting acceptance, wanting like, even though we might seem secure in what we're doing and how we're doing it,
right?
I feel like ultimately, like most, if not all, artists do seek approval or
validation.
Yeah, in other people, and I think that really does speak strongly with Edie, because you know she's, for me, a big part of her character is.
What do you mean by seek approval?
So like she seeks being validated by the characters around her. So whether it's sexually through men, or if it's her art through Mark, and also sexually with Mark as well, because she's also seeing him. Whether it's like
Akira as well.
House over the Killer.
Remember they went shopping, And then Achilles like, oh, this would look fat on you, or come on, what happened? She's like, oh, this look terrible on you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it got to like the third shop, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go and put it on, and she's like, oh, it actually look nice. Like, imagine a young girl was taking the piss out of you a little bit, but it's about now. But for her, it took her to the point where she actually has to like prove her wrong. You know.
But do you think is that a testament of her being an artist? So is that a trait of, as
I
you
think it's
said?
part of it.
So as an artist, is that constant
Insecurity, I guess.
But I guess
is that behavior of constantly seeking validation? Is that something that's innately distinctive of an artist, of, as you said, a creative? Well, I hate that. As you said, well, can it? You like ever since you said that about creatives?
Am I lying?
No, but it's true in the sense that if you really think about it, creatives don't.
You're gonna call people out now.
No, but
it's so funny. But
but no one's really spoken about. But essentially, what does a creative mean, right? And what you said is true in the sense that we don't say I'm a creative. I say I'm a photographer. You say you're an architect. You say you're a producer, a musician, right? If you're creative, it's an ambiguous term.
One size fits.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
DJ MUA.
Do you know what I mean? But it's like you need no one says that. And when you say I'm a creative, it's like this ambiguous term.
If someone says they're creative, I assume they're not. They're either a stylist or they're faking it, or they're not there yet.
No, but you would say you're a stylist.
No, okay.
You wouldn't say you say you're a
We're
stylist.
now entering the shady part.
No,
No, it's true. It's actually true. And
no, but I'm saying if you're a stylist, you say you're a stylist. Am I lying? I'm not trying to say that all stylists are creatives and they're faking it. I'm just saying if you're a creative, you don't.
No, but what if, guys, you can do everything?
That doesn't happen. Name me one person that can do everything. And we're not in a Renaissance period either, so don't
be
name Leonardo. Don't hear it.
You can say you could be multidisciplinary. Yeah. So
three max.
You can say you're a graphics designer. You're an architect, and you're a fine artist. Am I lying? Zach, you could say you're a musician. You
That's about it, man.
and then.
Guitarist, bruv. What do you mean?
No, I'm not like you're a musician.
musician
You have an iron lens, so there's a directing and creative directing aspect of yourself that you are dabbling in, and you're a composer. You've composed beautiful symphonies and music.
This is the bum licking period of the.
I just boost my friends up. I'm not hating like you, fam. But I'm just saying, and with me, everything. No, but I'm just.
We didn't realize.
But you are the photographer.
No, I'm a photographer.
And the scientist / zoologist.
And I'm a fine artist too.
Spokesperson for all topics.
Exactly. For BAME zoologists.
It's actually read now.
Okay, my bad.
But essentially, you can be. What I'm going back to in the sense that you would say you're multidisciplinary. You say you list the categories in which you have some expertise in. I'd be lying if I said I'm a graphic designer. I wouldn't. I know how to use Photoshop. I wouldn't say I'm a creative because that may encapsulate that, right? You could be mistaken as doing that, but that's false.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who are creatives kind of bask in that. They like that ambiguity. They like that. Oh yeah, I'm semi-qualified in this, and oh yeah, I can dip into this because you have a creative bone in your body. But everyone is creative. When people say I'm not creative, you are creative. You cannot be human without being creative in all elements. Even in finance, there is a level of creativity in, looking at soft. There's an element of creative in everything. So you saying you are a creative was a misnomer. Misnomer? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Doesn't mean anything. It's saying for music you'd be like I'm musically inclined. Something like I like music.
Yeah.
It's like okay.
It is mad general.
To me, it's actually something that's accepted now, but it in a sense doesn't really make any sense. And like you and Shafi have just like opened my eyes to that. Cause it's something I was like, or maybe we've defended it before. I was really thinking about it. It's like, no, it's actually very true. Like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But we kind of went off a bit topic.
We did, but I do want to touch on one of Zach's point about acceptance because, like you said already about how Edie she was in this kind of submissive, almost like this not slave, but like she just whatever the situation was, she was very much attuned to whatever consequences were going to be. She was working, she got fired, she didn't give a fuck. Like, she's doing these jobs she hated. She's cutting up her body that she didn't even want to do with Rebecca. She's greasing this girl's Achilles scalp. She's having sex with this guy that doesn't even like her, like doesn't want her around. Like, she's just subject to the situation. But this idea of acceptance that Zach brings up, I needed him to explain it, because what do you mean by acceptance?
So for me, I think we've actually almost covered a lot of the ideas of acceptance that I meant, in a sense that her seeking acceptance, that was more the angle I was covering at, in a sense where I feel like also weirdly she does want to be accepted into the family, even though I feel like she's very reluctant to, or she's awkward inside the house. I feel like she does want Rebecca to like her. She wants Eric's affection, and she wants Akila to fuck with her as well. So it's like, on all accounts, she does want to kind of be ingratiated, or at least feel comfortable in the household, but she doesn't really. But so the point I was making was more just on that kind of vibe of her seeking acceptance, and her also, maybe even we could look at it from the point of view of accepting as well, like her like accepting, because I get the vibe from the beginning of the book, she's, how do I say this, like we mentioned with the art, she's not really taken seriously as an artist by anyone. And I think there's a woman that she encounters who finally like sees her for her art towards the end of the book. And that kind of gives her that feeling of acceptance, where she's kind of been looking for that throughout. And that's kind of what I was talking about.
Okay, that's true. Because when she said that happened, I think she told the doctor, she was like, yeah, I'm an artist. Yeah. And she was like, she even said to us, like, it doesn't fall. That was the first thing that came out of her mouth. So for her, it was like, that ain't true.
It was unnatural.
It felt unnatural to her. But then that reminded her again at the end, and she was just like, okay, cool. Like, I need to, if I'm going to say it, I'll say it with my chest, basically. But no, overall, what do you think of the book then? Because I think we got to low-key wrap this one up.
What, on the bell, mate?
Yeah, come on, man.
That is... So what, we're rating it? Ooh.
Are we doing 0.5s this season? Because you always get pissed off.
No, do you know what? It's your signature.
Is that what you're doing? 0.3?
It's not 0.5, it's 0.2s. Like. But who's going first? Should I go first?
We should just make the rule that whoever does the book
goes last, isn't it? It's go last. Originally, it's last. It is from last season. It's last.
Alright, cool. We'll do that then.
So you go first, then.
Out of 10, yeah.
Yeah, out of 10.
Do you know what's mad? When I read the book, I was like, this book is kind of like, it's a good read. Like, if I read it over a course of a week or something, it'd be enjoyable. Because the middle is really slow. There's some weird angles to it. Some unresolved stuff, but that's just how life is. The ending was cute.
Deep.
Ending was cute, but it didn't give me what I needed. And yeah, I don't know. I feel, okay. 6, 7. 6.5, 6.5.
You said you were loving it, boy, when the beginning.
Well, we got 12 other books. I can't be rating everything a 9. Do you know what I mean? I need to range everything. Because remember last season,
and you
read a book,
a baseline, hasn't it? So
it's like, come down with me. If you go first, you're gonna win. Because everyone's just like, it's a 9. So
no, that's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Was it
6.5? 6 point. And 6.5 for me is a strong. I would read that again on holiday.
Speaking of, yeah,
would you recommend a book?
I would recommend it. I would. Okay, I recommend it. I wouldn't read it again this year.
Do you watch MasterChef by any chance?
Yeah.
All right. So what you just said, about the ratings, I was thinking about this because it's like, how do they cleanse their palate in between the meals? Because if you're the first person whose food they eat, and it's like, yeah, that tastes great, lamb or some shit, and then the second one, you're like a dainty like souffle or some shit.
It's edited, Zach.
Okay. No, hold on. Yeah.
So it's like, obviously they don't.
No, but as
you're
in,
not watching it in real time.
And
it's like
look,
good.
it's one portion.
There's a mix. There's a break, bruv. And they're professionals. They drink
cook
water.
the food at the same time.
Yeah.
How do you keep a souffle up when the hot food is served? Those things will disband.
100%. They probably take that into consideration.
There are times when
As
it's
in,
been
like,
like, oh, it's
bro.
deflated or it's burst or it's cold. Like it has happened. I've seen
I just wonder, but I just on that
see your
point you
point.
said.
No,
I see
I
your
see
point.
what you're saying in the sense that I don't know. I
It
don't
is
understand how that
mad-
relates to
it
what
is
we're
mad
talking
edited
about.
though. As in, he's talking
It's,
about the scores.
bruv, no, but but it's mad random. You pick that up. I'm just thinking it's actually mad, but
It makes sense.
it doesn't make any sense because we're talking about a book. So are we saying we can't cleanse our palates in terms of a book?
Oh my
Yes, in terms of the ratings.
God. Yeah.
So we're rating something early without having a scale to judge them.
No, but we've got books. We've read the books in the past.
But we're
though.
pros now.
That's what I'm
True.
We're reviewers now.
But yeah, it's mad edited. It's mad edited. That half an hour sequence, like half an hour, 50-minute sequence is like 2 hours, just long, and it's like they probably reshoot bits where he eats it. It's like it's like no,
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So
Have you been to a comedy show when they do that? They're like, oh, everyone laugh. Or
Swear
like,
down,
oh,
they say
have
that.
you not been to a comedy show when it's like
that's
being
Kevin
filmed?
Hart's, isn't it?
You've been filmed.
I've heard it's true though. Kevin Hart does that.
No,
Oh, swear, I was
if you
chatting
go
shit.
comedy shows that have been filmed, they always do that. They're like, oh, if a joke doesn't bang or the joke, he says a joke or he or she says a joke, doesn't go. Like the laughs aren't big enough. He'd be like, okay, let me say it again but differently.
Oh, allow it.
And then it might be
How
funny.
can
It
you
might
do
be
that?
funnier, but it might not work. But then there'll be times, especially in the beginning, they'll be like, oh, we just want to check the sound. Can everybody laugh?
Oh,
But that's just so people can.
okay, that makes sense.
So they have enough footage for. So yeah. it's
Also,
the
they
same.
use that laugh at the beginning for sound check as the laugh that comes
Maybe.
after the joke.
If it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
bang, I can see that.
Yeah. They
Well,
do that.
We're going to your rating.
My rating. I would say I'll give it a 6. I think she explores some interesting themes. It's a very unconventional angle to come at with this whole polyamorous relationship that she enters. But for me, just I couldn't get with this flow of the book, like how we were brought into the world of Edie. Just for me, just felt I couldn't really access it in the way I wanted to. So yeah, that's why I'm going for a 6.
Cool.
You know what? Think about it now. There's like I remember 'cause I forgot about this in my notes. It's like one bit of the book where he's talking about some of the tangents he goes on are like beautifully written. Like I think there's
That's why language in the beginning.
no as in a sense that you're right, and I completely forgot about this. And I think she was talking about the story of a dad. Just how he got to where he was at in terms of being a patriot, going to war and stuff. I think that's what it was about. It might be chatting shit. It's on 147 and 148. It's like, it's about a dad, about just growing up and him going to war and how just that paragraph in itself. So 147 to 148. I was like, oh, she's got something. She's as in like, no, she's got a talent. Don't get me wrong. Like, she's definitely got a talent. I think her next book and her following books are gonna be very, very good. And like, I think the people who've read this book, have focused on those points because the ending too. I think it ends really strongly. And like if I remember like Clockwork Orange, like it's a good book.
It starts and it ends very well. This book starts and ends very well. In my opinion.
And it ends very well. But I think in the middle, you can't be. She does get lost a bit.
Yeah.
Right? She does get lost, and it does. It goes off. It just goes off. It just gets a bit lost. I think I got caught up in that a bit too much. Where I was like, no, this is what the fuck am I reading? But I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit like you. Was like the last 20-30 pages are flicking. I was like,
Yeah.
This is good. The description of in terms of a miscarriage. When I thought it's almost like you saw her development as a writer. Like it's like. That it was extremely descriptive.
That's interesting.
The miscarriage bit and how she woke up with the blood on the sheets and it's like Rebecca and it was beautifully written and it was like almost Toni Morrison-esque, but Toni Morrison can it's like starts from beginning to fucking end and like it's all those few paragraphs she has in the book is the whole book for Toni Morrison of Sula. You saw aspects of that maybe in Derek. And then like the great authors can just carry that. They just know how to switch that on. Whereas with her, it's it's a bit jagged. So for me, I would say at the beginning, if I was gonna give it like a 2, but maybe like a 4, 4.5. No,
Wow.
Guy.
no, 4.5. I say 5. I think that's fair. Like, I think that's fair. Like 5. I give her a 5. 4.5 is harsh. 5. I give her a 5.
Would you recommend it? Nah.
No,
Really?
Would you read it again?
no,
Not this year.
no.
Wow.
I wouldn't recommend or read it again. But I can understand why it's like Marmite. When someone said to me, because when I chose this book, one of my friends was like, "Oh, don't read that," but another one was like, "Oh no, read that. It's a really good book."
Yeah.
So it's like Marmite. This book is like Marmite, and I think with you guys, you're like, "Oh yeah, this is quite good," and for me, it's like I hate Marmite. Like it was.
I think
don't know
black
what
women would enjoy this book.
Pardon?
I think black women would enjoy
Why
this
is that,
book.
Zach?
Whoa.
So here we go.
This is Zachary.
Why is that? No,
Disclaimer.
I just think it. Yeah, you know what? That's all I got for that. So it's not a book club. It's not a book club podcast.
You got scared, bro.
It's not a book podcast.
Podcast. No, you know what it is? I was gonna go somewhere.
Edit.
We
It wasn't, it wasn't
just
even
that.
a mad thing.
No.
Yeah, it was just like the point really just ended at I feel like they would enjoy it because I feel like they would, but you don't actually snakes.
No, but
You don't kind of stitch
I'm
me
not
up.
saying nothing.
You
bro.
said it, not me. What do you mean? How are we the snakes?
We're snakes, we don't say
No.
nothing.
Johnny,
You the ones.
You land
If we're going down, I bring you
I just
all
think-
of you down with me.
I
So.
just-
You're editing it anyway.
Exactly.
You're gonna chop this bit out. Isn't it?
It's got us two. It's like, yeah, we agree. But yeah, that concludes It's Not a Book Club podcast.
Oh my days.
Peace and love.
Oh wait,
Thank you
hold
for
on. The
listening.
next book.
Wait.
Why are you so
Oh, yeah,
quick to close?
shit.
Jeez, hasty Harry.
Oh yeah, what's the next book, Ken? Zach?
Wow.
No, you. Is it
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
It's you. What book are you recommending for the listeners? What's our next book we're reading?
So let me pull it up.
Bit of a delay. He's typing it on the computer. Or we can just. Can we just cut this? I don't know.
Yeah, it's come. We'll cut it.
The superior man.
The Superior
I
Man.
think it's called the Way of the Superior Man or something.
Who's it by?
I can't remember, but I was recommended to me recently.
Is it long?
It's short. Oh, fuck,
Long.
the internet's gone.
I look at my. So it's the.
I think it's called The Way of the Superior Man.
The Way of the Superior Man by David Dider.
That is the book indeed, yeah.
The
So-
ultimate spiritual guide for men. What is your true purpose in life?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Okay, no. Okay, I mean,
Okay.
I've only said that because someone told me to read it recently, and I'm going to read it anyway. So,
Okay,
Fair
fair
enough.
enough.
and you put me on the spot. So
No.
either it's that-
You know what? We haven't read a self-help book, so I guess.
Which I hate.
I despise
I
self-help.
can't do it.
I can't.
We'll do it though.
No, it's good. Do you know what's a good book? Because I wouldn't
Everyone
read
that
it
I've talked to
naturally.
about it has said,
It's good.
"Fucking read it." So
Are they all
I'm just
And
going.
that's-
Nah,
No, do you know what? I heard something really
no,
interesting.
trust. Watch.
But that, keep it for next podcast, innit?
We'll keep this, and then I'll play it
So-
back to you. You saying, "Oh,
Okay.
when you're like, oh, this book changed my
I
life,
I
guys."
strongly
Screaming.
disagree, but
Watch,
we'll see.
Watch.
But,
But yeah,
um,
that's my book.
Yeah, so
That concludes.
that concludes It's Not a Book Club podcast. Thank you for listening as always.
It's not a book club
peace and love.
podcast.
Is that it, innit?
Peace.
It's Not a Book Club.
It's not a book club podcast.
It's not book club.